That was fun. Good morning. Welcome to all of you here in the chapel.
Good
Welcome.
morning.
Thanks. Welcome to our friends online, whether you're watching us live or later in your week. We're glad you're here. So this morning, we will begin with our opening prayer. So I invite you to join me. Spirit, we come into this space in deep gratitude for our lives, our blessings, our community, our friends, and our family. And we know that the message that Reverend Madge shares today, that we will be able to listen with curiosity and with an open heart and discover an aspect, a word, a phrase, a thought, a vibration, a feeling that resonates and touches our hearts, and so that we can use this message in our daily lives to help us master every day, each and every day. And we just ask for blessings over our family, our friends, those loved ones. Let them feel the support that we can offer and the love, and then also the support and the love of Creator. And we say this in deep reverence. Amen. Amen. So this morning, Reverend Madge will be sharing the message.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Welcome. So the topic today the name of it is This Life and the Next, but it's about desire and the power of desire. A couple of stories to share. Second story is kind of related, but it's important information. I felt compelled to include it in today's message. So this has been quite a year so far. The world events have been kind of rocking our world. It's been amazing and yet scary, and yet who knows what. And who knows what's yet to come, in the seen and the unseen world. But nonetheless, I want to assure everybody, I want you to really, really know in the bottom of your heart that no matter what you're going through or what you're going to go through, that you're not going through those experiences alone, that you have support and assistance and companionship all through those experiences. And we get this help that is always available. And I just want you to really know that. So speaking of vibrational levels of connectedness, which is what a lot of this is all about, is some of you might have had this experience where you've had a deep desire for something and you feel it inside, you put it out there, and then time passes, then pretty soon it comes to somebody crosses your path that fulfills your desire. But when you start connecting your storylines, you realize that their storyline merged with your storyline, and that's where you can really see the manifestation of frequencies coming together. Your desire and your frequency, and their desire and their frequency, or their skills and their talents, perhaps matched your desires, and then you have this coming together, and then your desire is fulfilled. And so to realize that happens on a vibrational level. But did it really only happen on a vibrational level? Was it by accident? Was it a freak chance that you happened to come across this individual that had the exact thing that matched your desires? And for me, the answer is no. Even though there's a strong connection vibrationally, once we put that out there, we have these legions of helpers that help make those things happen, as well as vibrational frequencies of like attract likes. So you didn't do it all by yourself. Most likely you had legions of angels and helpers and guardians and ancestors that came through and helped orchestrate this in compatibility with the vibrational frequencies. And so even though we have the desire, it's really important that we have the desire, because our legions of angels and helpers cannot desire for us. They can only help orchestrate what we desire. They can sit around and wait for us to put it out there, what's best for us, what's coming, that will make us compatible with our future or our skills and talents, but they can't do it for us. We have to be the one that generates the vibrational frequency of desire. We have to be the one that creates the feeling and puts the idea out there. And then they can go into action and help orchestrate making this happen for us. So there's two basic paths of desire. There's the Eastern way and the Western way. Michael Meade says that wars are fought north and south. Religion is fought east and west. Isn't that interesting? It's like, wow, okay. That's very different. So in these two desires, or paths of desire, the outcome is the same. It's just how we come to it that's different. The outcome of both paths is to become desireless, in a sense. The Eastern path is to transcend all desire and become desireless. And they start with being at one with God. They just start right out with God, one with God, and they work their way down to the self, to a desireless state of the self. The Western way, which is what most of us engage in, is to be so fulfilled that we're desireless. The Western path starts with the self, and we work our way up to God, which is probably the most common path for us. And the outcome is still the same. Neither is better than the other, but the outcome happens to be desireless, to have no more wants and no more needs. So nothing is lacking in either way, either journey. It's that complete oneness with spirit or God, while still in the flesh, of course. And to be so full of love and light that you don't need either way. You're so full of the spirit, as some of the more fundamentals, with the spirit of Jesus or the spirit of God, that you don't have a need, or just full of spirit. You don't have a need. And there's some people that achieve this so well that they don't even have a need for food or water. I haven't accomplished that one yet. Probably never will. But there are those that do. And I'm going to share with you some metaphors that might make some of you feel a little uncomfortable, but bear with me because it makes sense. The word desire comes from the Latin desire, meaning to sire. So it means of the Father. And to have a deep desire for something is just like getting pregnant. Yeah. The seed of the Father is an idea. It's something that sparks in us. It's like a bolt of energy that happens in our mind or our heart. And there's a conception of an idea. And when we get an idea, what's our first response? Oh, I got an idea. Well, that's a very masculine gesture. It's that bolt of lightning that took place in the roundness of our mind or our heart, which is the feminine. So it's a conception of the masculine, the divine father and the divine mother, that gestates and incubates this idea that grows within us. So there's an idea that's conceived within us, and we nurture it in there. We think about it. We grow it. We grow this idea. We talk about it with others, or not, but we grow it within us. And then eventually we birth this idea. We birth this desire into a real entity of its own. We make it happen, come into the flesh. And it's no longer in us, but it's of us. And it comes through us with our specific or your specific energetic pattern, with your specific energetic frequency. Even though it's conceived in the divine father and divine mother, in the great potential of all it is, it still has your unique energetic signature, which is essential. And so it makes us co-creators. We're co-creators. It comes through our flesh, through our mind, through our body, into fruition of what it's of something that's going to continue to take on a life form, whether it's a business or a creation or a whatever it is. But sometimes we'll abort the fetal desire because we get all scared and we might not believe we deserve this. So we start dismantling it. We start aborting this idea. We don't believe we can handle it, or we're not smart enough to embody such an idea. Or we might say, why me? Why me? Why am I thinking of this grandiose idea? Who am I to be thinking of things so grand? But the why you is because you have a very specific energetic signature, and it needs your spiritual DNA to it. It needs to come through you. And it needs that specific blueprint that only you can provide. So you might have a good, healthy fetal desire that is strong and capable of fully developing into a healthy entity of its own. But sometimes we put so much negativity into it that it can't survive. Or we put so much negativity in it that only parts of it can be born, not the wholeness of the true essence, because our trouble basket might still be too full. We might still have too many negative ideas about ourselves or the world out there. So we have to really think about that. And, can our ideas survive our fears? Can our ideas survive? Can our desires survive what we're carrying inside of us? So it might be a business that never gets off the ground. It might be a creative expression. It might be a sewing project. It might be, who knows what. It might be a skill and talent within ourselves that can come out and be of service to the world. But we have to really work on what's holding those ideas back or might destroy them before they come into fruition. So this is just a metaphor. Obviously, I love metaphors. But it's the metaphor of the Latin term to sire in our desires and in our connectedness with spirit. So you are a very powerful creator. And the time right now is really important for each and every one of us to embrace our creative abilities, to embrace who we really are as a force, as a power of desire, because that's our superpower, is desire. Even though the goal is to become desireless. But in the meantime, desire of being of service, desire of an idea, of a practice, perhaps. So take ownership of this power, this powerful force. We might say, I really desire to have, or I'm really desire to do. These are powerful statements. So if you have any shreds of doubt, especially around whether they're going to work or not, take the leap. Do it anyway. Figure it out later. Make mistakes, but do it again. Get back up. Dust off. Try again. Don't delay in digging in and cleaning out your closet of beliefs that only serve to your detriment and that hold you back. Those are the beliefs we want to let go of, because we can see in how desires manifest through us that they really do hold us back. There's legions of angelic companions that are just waiting for you to start the ball rolling and to serve you and everyone else in your greatest good. But they can't do it for us. We have to get the ball rolling. Then they can serve us. There's a quote that I really like. Those who are willing to be vulnerable move among mysteries. So what does that mean, to be vulnerable? It means that you don't get to know everything. Darn. Don't we love to know everything? Well, I can't do it because I don't know. I wish I understood. We just get frustrated and we spin in the not knowing. And so we won't take the leap because we don't know. I'm guilty of that too. I'm preaching to my own choir. Yeah. But what does it mean to not get to know everything? Well, you don't, that's being vulnerable, is moving forward even when you don't know everything. But that's part of the journey. That's part of the point of the journey. We allow ourselves to be vulnerable and we're allowing ourselves to not know everything. Well, we're opening ourselves up to the mystery. And who doesn't love a good mystery, right? We love a good mystery, but we love a good mystery when we kind of know. but sometimes we don't get to. But when we have a mystery in front of us, then we get all ambitious and I'm going to figure this out. Oh, this is so fun. And we see it as a journey of the mystery. Well, our life is that way too. So we need to embrace the mystery within ourselves and allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And what do we do when we hear someone whisper? We get real quiet and we perk up our ears and we really lean into it to hear what they're saying, right? Because it's good. If they're whispering it, it must be good. So we got to hear it. Well, that's how our angels speak to us. Our angels whisper, probably so that we'll listen. If they whisper it, they'll listen. If they come at us with a booming voice, we run the other way, right? But if they whisper, we lean into it. Ooh, what was that? That must be good. Yeah. So lean into the whispers that happen inside. So in relation to legions of angels and whispers, I want to share with you this beautiful true story. This is a true story of a couple that really desired to have a child. But the clock had run out, and so they had decided to adopt. And they decided to adopt from one of the Asian countries. However, they kept running into red tape, bureaucratic blocks, barriers, and it was just the insurmountable difficulties that they continued to bump up against. So they were so discouraged, they were just ready to give up. So they went out to their beach home to rest for a little while and just take a break from it all and try to work their way through the disappointments of what they had gone through. Well, the husband was feeling really heartsick and despondent. So he went outside to pray and have a conversation with God. And he went and sat on a bench that was nearby. It was a little ways away from the house, but close enough to be seen from the kitchen window. Well, his wife was inside cooking dinner, and she noticed this woman sitting beside him on the bench. And she noticed this woman getting closer and closer to him. And she didn't like it. Who is she to get so close to my husband like that? Well, she continued to cook, but she kept glancing out the window to see what was going on out there. And this woman got closer and closer until she was just so intense right in his face. And she was not happy about what she was seeing. And she was really getting angry at her husband for for him to allow another woman to get so intimate with him. And about the time she finished dinner was about the time her anger took off. And so she went out, stomped out of the house to give them both a piece of her mind. Well, when she stepped out the door, the woman was gone. But her anger wasn't. She was still mad. So, so she went stomping off out there to him to tell, what are you doing, allowing another woman to be so intimate with you? Really, I don't like that. Well, he was completely bewildered. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've been sitting out here by myself. And she says, no, you haven't. And she went into great detail describing this woman that was sitting there with him all while she was fixing dinner. And they soon realized that they were both telling the truth because he was sitting there alone, but there was somebody that she saw sitting with him. So he recounted what his thoughts were and his feelings and the hunches that he was getting while he was sitting there on the bench. And he shared with her that the exact agency that they needed to go to, the name of the person they needed to speak to, and the timing of it, and every detail of what needed to happen, because there was a child that needed them as much as they needed the child. And so they did. They realized that there was an angel sitting there with him, working with him, telling him exactly what to do, and he was open to it. And he, registered all these, but here that was hunches. It wasn't like an instructional manual that came to him. It was hunches and feelings and ideas and that came to him. So that's how our angels communicate to us. That's how our helpers and guardians. It's not by bolts of lightning, not usually. It's usually the whispers of hunches. Yeah, hopefully not bolts of lightning. That could be a little scary, but but that's the way we want it to be. Well, we want it to be loud and clear, but it doesn't. It comes through hunches and feelings. So they did. They followed it exactly as he had heard it to the letter. And even though it seemed crazy, some of these connections and things, timings didn't make any sense, but they did it exactly as he felt it was right. And they did it without any fear. They just launched into it with complete absence of fear and just probably even beyond faith. Just do it. Not even like, oh, I'm going to believe it's going to work and all the right words. That's just trying to counter your fear. They just launched into it with all the confidence in the world without looking, just took the leap. And they said it was so uncanny how the people that they came across were almost like expecting them. And it's like they all knew each other. And it's like, oh yeah, 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 come in and let's do this. And so before they knew it, they were flying across the ocean to pick up the child that was waiting for them. And so that all came through, just sitting quietly and following the hunches, because they were never left alone. They were always being helped because it was the right thing. It was the right action. So I also read a book some time ago called The Testimony of Light. It's a good book if you ever have an opportunity to read it. It's by Helen Greaves. It's really a fantastic book. It was written by a woman that had a very close relationship with a nun. They were very, very good friends, and her name was Frances Bank. And they used to practice meditation and what they called then mental telepathy. Now we would call it a psychic connection or intuition, but that at that time in the 50s and 60s when this was taking place, they called it mental telepathy. So they practiced that with each other all the time, and they had a very deep psychic connection with each other. So the book was written in 1969, so it was very revolutionary in its time. And my printer went front and back, and I have to make sure I don't lose my pages. So anyway, they and to talk about mental telepathy and psychic connections was kind of scary in those days. It wasn't very prevalent. So she had great courage of coming out at that time to write this book. I first heard of channeling in the 80s, and it was even not mentioned and talked about then. I can imagine what it's like in the 60s, 50s, and 60s to have that. So anyway, I'm very grateful that they did, because it's a very good teaching book about it. So Frances, the one who passed over, so Frances passed away. She was the first one of the two women to go, and she was the nun. So she passed away, and uh, she was a very deeply spiritual woman and very dedicated to being of service to others. And she was very educated as well. Her education was impressive, and she loved to teach. She's a very good teacher. So after Frances died, Helen and Frances continued that psychic connection. It didn't matter what realm they were in, they still continued the psychic connection. And Frances, still being this very dedicated person, she shared with Helen on a regular basis what life was like for her and what she was doing, and the events of things that were happening around her. So Frances chose to remain in what she called a rest home. And it's where souls that were damaged during their life on Earth, on the Earth plane, went to be healed. They went to rest and be healed from the trauma and the things that happened to them while they were on Earth. So she called it, she said they would come for a space, because they don't have time there. We would call it for a period of time, but she called it a space. They come for a space. And she explained that when someone leaves the Earth plane, that the soul often needs to rest and even go into a deep sleep for a while, and depending on what they experienced when they were here, or what they did. Sometimes it's what they did as well. They need to rest from that. Not all souls that die were traumatized. Some caused trauma. There's traumateurs too. Yeah, so while in this deep sleep, the angelic beings, this is absolutely beautiful to know, that while these souls are in their deep sleep, the angels, the angelic beings, envelop them with love and healing and light until they're ready to wake up, until their souls have been nourished enough to heal. And then they start coming into consciousness, slowly, and sometimes, when they're ready. But they're never ever alone. They're always with these beautiful angelic beings that just envelop them. And there's people that have done out-of-body experiences through the Monroe Institute that have witnessed this as well. So there's more than one account of this happening. So eventually being able to view their experience, as they heal, then they're able to view their life experience and come into the wholeness of consciousness of their deeds, actions, and words, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter. We get an opportunity to view everything that we've experienced or done. And her teaching about that actually validates a story that I heard growing up from my dad. When my grandpa, my dad's dad, passed away, he came back to visit him. And people don't change much when they first pass over. And he was kind of a scoundrel kind of a fellow. So when he came to visit, he told my dad, he said that he had to view his life. He had to do his life review. And this is what he said: I challenged those SOBs because I didn't believe it. You don't just die and become an angel. You die and just progress. You're still who you are, Anyway, I challenged those SOBs and I didn't believe it. So they showed me how it works, and there was nothing I could do but take full responsibility for what I did. So my father asked him, he says, if he would see him again, will I ever see you again? And he said, probably not, because I'm going to be going to a world of three colors. And this is a mystery. I don't know what this means. But a world of three colors: blue and white, black and white, and brown and three colors: blue and white, black and white, and brown and white. I don't know what that means. But my father asked him if there was a world below the one that he was going into. And he said, yes, there's a world of total darkness where man, beast, and fowl roam. Well, it's interesting to me. I don't mean to tell you these things because it's scary. I mean because it's going to be clarified here in a second. So it does sound scary. It sounds like hell, the Bible. But Frances teaches from the other side. She's teaching that there are some souls that do roam in darkness because that's what their soul believes is true. That's what they believe about themselves. So she teaches that we're only prisoners of our own beliefs. I think that's really important to really embrace and to fully know that we're only prisoners of our own beliefs. God doesn't do these things to us. We have to follow the path of our own beliefs. Whether we're in form in this life or in the other one, it's still true. We're held to and experience what we believe. So when the soul comes to the realization, this is also what she teaches, when the soul comes to the realization that it doesn't have to be that way, they don't have to be in darkness, they don't have to be in whatever world they find themselves in, that's their belief system, then they come out of it. And there are always many beings of light sending them love and light to help them wake up to the truth, to the love of God. So the love of God never ever changes, and there's always beings that are beaming love and light to the people that are stuck in their circle of their own beliefs. And eventually they start waking up, like, maybe I don't have to believe that. Then their world changes. Well, that isn't true, is it? Well, then their world changes, just like it does here. So one such person that she talks about in her book is this German Nazi fellow. And he sadly participated in the killings of Jewish people at one of the prison camps. And at the same time, and he came to be in her, what she calls rest home. So he was initially in darkness because that's what he believed about himself. Then he came out of darkness, but came to her rest home. And so she was caring for him, and he couldn't handle the light. He thought the light was blinding him because he, came out of darkness. Now he's come into the light of God, and he thought it was harming him because he didn't see it for what it was, because he didn't see it in himself yet. But eventually he did. And as they transitioned to her rest home, what she also realized is there was another woman that showed up in her rest home at the same time. And she was a victim of his killings. Her family and her child, and eventually her, were killed by him in the Nazi camps. So, not to be gory, but there is a point to this story. as this gentleman transitioned to the rest home, he started to realize the atrocities he had committed against humanity, and he couldn't bear it, and he fell back into unconsciousness. And he would take a while to wake back up. As the angels enveloped him and held him and healed him, he would eventually come out of the state of unconsciousness and be able to wake up and embrace his existence again. But the part of the story I really want you to understand is the woman that came at the same time that was one of his victims. Because her hatred for him was so strong, she was bound to him. And she had to go through the process with him until she could forgive and see the light of God in him. So her own feelings, her own hatred bound her to his soul. As that's her story. That's Frances's story, what she observed from and learned about from the place of her rest home. So it's so imperative that we forgive. It's so imperative that we release the bonds. It never means that it's okay. It was never okay for that gentleman to do what he did. That is never okay. But she needed to find peace in her own heart for whatever happened. And interestingly enough, as I was writing this, there was a TikTok that came up about a man who lost his entire family in the hands of the Nazis. But he's considered the happiest man in the world because when he dedicated himself to joy, he dedicated himself to happiness. And here's somebody that experienced a horrendous atrocity, and yet he dedicated himself to happiness. And every photograph of him is of him just smiling huge. And he just spread joy, dedicated himself to joy. So he won't be bound to any of the souls. But the hatred is a binding agent. So, and love is freedom. It's that simple. And the hardest thing in the world to do. But there's always angels that are helping us through every one of those events, every one of those binding agents that we might be experiencing. We'll never, ever do it alone. But not to leave it on that kind of a story. There's another story about that she tells. I'll briefly go through it because we're coming up on time. But Frances still uses HIPAA laws on the other side. So she won't tell this guy's name. So she calls him Mr. M, not to disclose his identity. I think that's hysterical. So Mr. M was a scientist, and he showed up in her rest home when he passed over. And she was asking him to challenge his thinking around the X factor. Anybody that does math, there's always an X factor, the unknown. You're doing math problems and you have the X factor, it's the unknown factor. So she challenged him to think about whether the X factor, that factor of the unexplained or unknown, is an equation of God. And he, of course, didn't want to think about that at first. Is this unknown factor in your equations actually the God element? And over time, or in space, as she called it, he came to see that it was true, that the X factor was the God element. And so he, in turn, challenged her to think about her life because she believed that all of life was an illusion, which many of us do, and many of us kind of have evidence that this life is an illusion. So he challenged her to see that it's not an illusion and to draw comfort and peace from that her life is relevant and not an illusion. He said, because you experience life with all of your senses, so it made it real. It's real because you're experiencing it with your senses. And because you believe it and you experience it through all of your senses, you manifested it. So you manifested it into matter through your belief and through your senses, so it's real. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool because in the sense that life is an illusion, there's a sense of helplessness to it. It's just a fluke consequence because it's all not real anyway. So why do we even try? Well, it is real. It's real in our manifestation of through our senses, through our desires, through our beliefs, and through our companionship with the angelic realm that co-create with us. So that's as real can be. So your life has deep value and your experiences have deep value, and we need to experience them fully in every moment in the present moment and forgive deeply and live and love deeply. So with that, Let's have a little meditation. Let's do a little check-in. So we can go into our center, take a nice deep breath, and think about what it is that you desire in your heart. What is the one thing that you desire to have, or desire to do, or desire to be? And let's paint a picture of what that would look like in a really clear vision. What would you be doing if it were to come true? If it were to manifest in your tomorrows? How would it make you feel? Feel the feelings as if it's real. What would it smell like? What are the sights around that desire? And see the outcome of that desire of your heart, the desire in your mind that has been conceived and is waiting for the nurturing, for the birthing process to come into real matter, because it does matter. It's important. And we can co-create this with our angelic realm, with our helpers, our guardians that are waiting to make things happen for us in their experience of life. Feel the joy in your heart as it comes to pass, as it comes to be, and brings great happiness to you, the ones around you, creating a resonant field of joy and happiness. And if there's any blocks, barriers that you find, any internal dialogue, just release them and let them go down into the earth. If there's any forgiveness that needs to happen, forgive deeply and just let it go. It's not worth your energy, not worth your time. Live your life fully in this present moment with a big heart of love, knowing that you are so loved, you are so nurtured, and you are so important. In the powerful being that you are, in the bigness of your heart, know that you can make anything happen. You can bring so much goodness to yourself and those around you. You can be of deep service to others and yourself, creating a magical world of mystery and fulfillment. Take another deep breath as you bring yourself back into the room, knowing that you can take these feelings into your tomorrows and just be the powerhouse that you truly are. And so it is. All right. Back with me? Kind of went around the block with good stuff and bad stuff, huh? Hopefully we landed in a good place on both feet. All right. So we're going to do the offering and have the basket go around. Let's take our gift to the home center. Put it between our hands, charge it up with our love and the powerhouse of the energy that you truly are on the inside, knowing that you are already incredibly abundant and your life is incredibly fulfilling. And we just infuse that feeling into the gift that supports the home center, and we receive it with a grateful and a glad heart, knowing that it's part of the circle of energy in the universe that comes back to you and blessing you with all of your wants, needs, and desires. They're going to serve your highest and your greatest good. And let that be your truth. Amen. Okay, basket's going around, and I'm going to turn it over to Jen to share an inspirational story and closing prayer and close out our broadcast.
That was a great message. Thank you, Madge. So this morning I was thinking, Madge had asked me if I would cover for Dick, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I need an inspirational story. So I was talking to Jerry, and I'm like, you know, what do I do? Well, we had a conversation earlier we had a Reiki class yesterday, and somebody had asked about the power of three, the number three. Why do we do this three times? So we had this really awesome conversation about like the three, right? So it got me to thinking, well, this morning I'm running around. I'm like, I don't have my Jesus calling book. I don't know. What am I going to share today? And I thought, okay, well, it's March 3rd, 3-3. And so we were looking up, like, what would be a message for 3-3? Looking up books. And Jerry said, don't give me credit for it, but I'm going to anyway. So he God shot it. He just opened this book that some of us were gifted from Madge, Positive Manifestations. He opens it up to page 33. And well, I had messaged Madge. I said, what's your talk about? So I can find something, So it ended up being very divine. Page 33. It says, what do you desire? So tapping into the power of intention and being able to manifest what you desire is not about trying to bend the energy of the universe to your will. It's about riding the wave instead of trying to fight through it. It's about coming into harmony with the power of intention so that you can recognize and receive the blessings that already surround you on your path. And then there's a quote from Wayne Dyer. It says, act as if anything you desire is already here. Believe that all that you seek, you've already received, that it exists in spirit, and know you shall have all your desires filled. So, yeah, that's a little God shot there. So I just invite you to join me in our closing prayer. And we're so grateful to have this time together to hear the words that Reverend Madge shared. And we know that we'll be able to carry those things that resonated with us through the rest of our day and through the week. And again, we're in deep gratitude for this place, for this home spiritual center, for all that come, those that join us online. And we just bless our day and ask for peace and harmony and love, and that all of our desires are met. And we say this in love and light. Amen. And I probably won't close it as lovely as Dick, but we say goodbye to our friends online. See you later.